So do you want an introduction or you just want to start?
What's that?
You want an introduction or you just going to start?
You can introduce me if you want.
Well, you can just start.
Yeah, you know what?
I
I know some of these gentlemen already. I'm Bill McCallum anyways, local chiropractor. That's all the introduction I think I need. My parents and teachers.
Lights, action, camera.
Yes. He's gonna do this for, this is YouTube, is this you're talking? or-
Well, it could
Well,
be.
if you want to.
If you don't want
We'll
it,
see how well this
if you
is.
don't want it, it doesn't have to.
As I start here, I'd like to thank Rick for actually letting me know that I have to do this talk about a day before I went on my nice holiday to Florida. Right, something like letting something hang over your head for 2 weeks, eh? Yeah.
Get online.
Oh, I don't know what to get online, I don't know.
Sorry to interrupt you, go ahead. We'll shut up here.
It's okay. All right, so why we're out here tonight, we're going to talk about the 100-year lifestyle. And I guess one of the first questions I have for you guys is, does everybody want to live to 100 years?
Well,
Because your answer to that is
120,
pretty...
I want 100, I'm 120.
Good, so your answer, that's important too as we go along. Watch that, you know, your perception of what's going to happen here is important. So that's good to hear. And I hope you all agree that we want to live to 100 years quality-wise too, right? I don't want to be attached to a machine somewhere, just laying in bed. I want to
I
be
want to be walking around.
ride the roller coasters, playing tennis, doing the golf, all that stuff I just did in Florida. I want to do that with my grandkids when I'm
You want to
100.
be alive, not living. You want to be living, not alive.
Exactly. That's the approach here. Good.
No sugar.
When I come out to do these lectures around the community, actually it was your wife, I guess, that heard me speak at the library on women's health. But I really try to give you some new information, stuff you probably haven't heard. Now, you guys sound like a pretty knowledgeable group. You're into some stuff I'm not even aware of, but hopefully some of the stuff that I share with you tonight is going to be helpful for you. The definition of doctor is teacher. Did you know that?
That's right.
So I take that role pretty seriously maybe because my parents were both teachers, but I feel there's a severe lack of education when it comes to true health and wellness. So this sounds like a really good group. I wish there was more people here.
Yeah.
Certainly, I think this is a group that I wish I would have heard about earlier on because
Come back some other
the
time.
system,
You don't get everybody tonight, come back again.
I think I'm talking to the preacher to the choir here tonight, and you guys understand that there's our issues out there with the healthcare system. It's really a sick care system more than a healthcare system. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
And it's really not the solution to a lot of our healthcare issues, right? So tonight I want to go through some stuff, give you guys some feedback on where I think we need to go with living to 100 years of age. And I think one of the first things that I usually do when I do this talk is talk to people about their empire. And empire is not spelled that way. It's spelled M-P-Y-R, and it stands for your. Oh, good evening.
Hello, we made it. What do
Oh,
you know?
evening anyways.
Yes,
Just started, just started.
it is. Nice to
I'm
meet you.
Elizabeth Eros.
I'm Bill McCallum. Nice to meet you. Yes,
Hi.
sir.
Hi.
Nice to meet you. Yeah.
Rob's been stuck out here.
Pardon?
Rob's been stuck in the...
No, there's so much shouting to do.
Oh,
Then they got stuck.
Stuck out.
But I got those traction greats, see, they were
One here, are you okay with
Oh, I guess so.
that? Okay. You sound like you're easy to please.
We're just talking about everybody's empire here as you walked in. So empire is spelled M-P-Y-R, and it stands for your minimal potential for years remaining, potential years remaining. And you've all had grandparents and parents that you've witnessed age over the years. So how we figure out your empire is we take the oldest grandparent that you ever had, and you take the age they lived to, and then I want you to subtract from that your present age. This is a young group in here, so this is, so we got the calculators and the phones out for this, right? So what do we got? Anybody got any numbers?
12.
Yours is 12, okay. So what do you think about that?
Well, I'm gonna hold longer now, I've been able to live everybody in a room.
Any other numbers? What's your empire?
Oh, two.
Is it 12? Okay.
That's my grandparent, but his mother was, he would have been one.
My grandfather was 89.
27.
Well, your parent, the longest living relative in your family. So you got 80.
So 27, that's
So 27, good. So what do you think about that then?
no higher.
Better? Yeah, okay, good. Anybody else? Anybody have any alarming numbers? Anybody negatives? Anybody have any negatives? That just means you've outlived the oldest relative, but. So you know, when you get younger audiences, often they're giving 50, 60 years to this. And it's kind of scary to them, right? And the point I want to make is that you have the potential now to live a lot longer. A lot of people presume they're only going to live, they're living a lifestyle of 50 or 60 years. But the potential is there for you to live a lot longer than you probably planned on it, right? So really, that's really, I want to get people's attention with that, make sure you understand, listen to what we're talking about, so that you're planning on making it to that 100 and with the quality that we talked about. So your main priority then, what is your major asset in life? If I was to ask what your major asset, your best asset you have is what?
Your health.
Good. Anybody else, any other assets, or everybody agree with that?
The wife,
Your wife?
gotta keep her healthy.
Politically correct, yes, but probably not the best
I
answer.
couldn't do it
If
without.
you don't have your health, though, you can't really
Yeah.
look after your wife either, can you?
Freedom and liberty.
And two, yeah. But you don't have that freedom if you don't have your health, right? So, I mean, this gentleman's correct. That's really what the answer I'm looking for, is that health's our number one asset in life, right? So if that's your number one asset, then is it logical to assume that you've got a plan to get yourself and your family to live a healthy lifestyle, right? Or to be healthy, right? So what is your plan? What do you base your plan on then? How do you know that your family's healthy? How do you know when you're healthy?
By eating natural, good food.
Okay, that helps you be healthy, but how do you know you're healthy? How do you know that you're on the right track there with your family?
Because you're not ill all the time, and you feel good, and you feel the same way you did 20 years ago.
Okay, good. So that's the answer I get most of the time. People say it's when I feel good or look good. And my point in asking for that answer, and that's not incorrect, but it's the problem with relying on how I feel or how I look as far as basing your health on that
I
is
never
that
say how I look.
the number
That can be deceiving.
okay, the number 1 and 2 causes of death are things you don't feel. Heart disease and cancer, right? You can have heart disease, and in 90% of the cases, the first symptom is a sudden acute heart attack. In 50% of the cases, you die, right? Cancer can be in your body probably a decade before you start to notice any symptoms or any lumps. So you can't base your health on how you feel. You have to base it on really how you are, right?
George Bird said it best. What do you think what do doctors say about you drinking martinis and smoking cigars? It says, oh, my doctor, you're dead.
So when you look at these people, they probably died, right? These people had all the opportunity to live in, do anything they want with their health, right? And they probably died 3 or 4 decades early because they lived that lifestyle of reacting to their health, waiting till they felt something or didn't have the health issues, instead of being proactive with it as they went along. So when you think about waiting for that symptom or something to indicate that you're ill, right? What is a symptom?
Seems to be an abnormality to your regular health.
Yeah, symptom is really the fire alarm going off, isn't it? It's not often the problem, it's just letting you know that there's something more serious going on inside your body, isn't it? And just much like the fire alarm, what happens is if you react to the fire alarm and just cut the wire to the fire alarm or take the batteries out of it, have you made yourself any healthier? No. And is the fire still burning? And yet, what are we brought up to in this society? We're taught, right, is to take a pill, right? You have a symptom, you go to the doctor and you take a pill. And by taking the pill, are you any healthier? Is that problem you had any better the next day if you just cover up the symptom?
No.
No.
So often you spiral down, and then a week or 2 later, things are actually worse, and a month or so later, or a year or so later, you're actually sicker and sicker, you need another drug, to the point where you actually may end up with surgery. Make sense? Yeah. And, of course, if you cut the fire alarm, totally ignore the fire in the house, what's going to happen? You're going to die, right? So that, and I'm talking to the choir here, I think, because we already talked about that, but understand that philosophy of covering up symptoms by using drugs is the leading cause of death out there. I talked about cancer and heart disease, right? They're really number 2 and number 3. It's close to 1 million people die every year from using that philosophy. It used to be a few 100,000, but they redid the study in 2001, and they found there's close to 1 million people dying every year from the side effects of medicine. So we can't wait, we can't rely on that system. Better health through better chemistry is failing miserably. We're using more drugs in North America, right? We've got better hospitals, more doctors, and you've got 1 in 3 people that have diabetes, 1 in 3 people that have the cancer, right? 1 in 2 have heart disease. Like, all those illnesses are growing faster than anywhere else in the world, and we have more of this chemistry and that out there, so it's obviously not the solution. Heart disease for ladies, actually, it used to be the guys who were really involved with the heart disease. Some of the stats on this, there's actually more ladies than men dying of the heart disease now. And it's really because you can have high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and you can live with those things, can't you?
period of
If you
time.
couple that with a stressful lifestyle, you're a ticking time bomb. Ladies didn't used to be out of the house, they were working at the house, but now you got ladies that are working at the house, they're working another job, right? Their stress levels are through the roof now, right? So, and that's really why I want to lead into this whole stress response here. Understand that your body, when you're exposed to a stress, whether it's a tiger that jumps out of a bush at you, or whether it's the stress of finances or dealing with a school class that's just driving you crazy every day, whatever is making you stressed out, the same responses occur in your body. Your nervous system perceives the stress, and then it sends signals down to your sympathetic nervous system, and that sympathetic nervous system is connected to all the organs and cells and tissues of your body, and you're going to get an increase in catabolic activity. It's logical. These are, by the way, are healthy responses. Your stress response is a healthy response. If that tiger's there, you want the blood going to your heart, you want your heart beating faster, you're going to run away and fight it, right? But do you need, you'll notice here, like you don't need digestion at that time, right? You don't need to be able to relax. You don't need to have a good immune system. Unless that thing catches you and you're trying to survive, at that point, initially, you don't need an immune system either. So what happens is, you have a list of the stress response summary here. I want you to look at this list and see what happens when you're put under stress, whether it's day-to-day stress. And the problem is, obviously, is that the tiger jumps out at you once, you get a response. But what are we living in a society today where stress is everywhere? It's constantly under stress, aren't we? So look at these things here. We have increased heart rate, increased blood pressure, increased glucose levels, blood clotting factors. Does that not sound like a heart attack waiting to happen? I don't have my pointer on here, just a minute, guys. Should have a,
Yeah, I got one.
I got it, no, there we go. Now I just don't have the, on the next page, you've got, when you look at the decreased insulin resistance, right, does that not sound like diabetes starting to kick into the body? How about memory issues or sensitivity, sensory systems? Does it not sound like maybe a child could be developing ADHD or attention hyper, you know? So most illnesses, right, the prerequisite for most illnesses, if not all of them out there, is that your body is under stress of some type. And you can take the drugs, you can drop the numbers of your cholesterol and your blood pressure down artificially, but it really hasn't made you any healthier, has it? You have to make changes in your life, and you can improve your life in 3 different areas then. You can improve your life in a physical, emotional, or chemical area. These are the 3 stressors that we have, and this is a whole lecture on itself. I just want to touch on this tonight as it leads into the 100-year lifestyle, but understand that physical solutions for you are everywhere, and the problem with physical stress, I find, is not the acute stresses. It's not the Roger Patola got out and breaking his leg on a ski hill, and it heals within 8 weeks, right? That's a stress you can handle. But it's those chronic stresses. It's when you have those old nagging injuries. And guess what people start to do? They start saying, I can learn to live with it, or I've learned to live with it. And guess what they learned to do? They just started to avoid the activities that were keeping them healthy before. We need activity daily in our lives, don't we? So if you just start avoiding activity because of this, it's not a good thing. So try to be proactive, not reactive when it deals with physical stresses. And understand too that the physical stresses, that movement that you're doing, Dr. Sperry won a Nobel Peace Prize because there's a lot of problems with dementia, Alzheimer's and that these days. He found that 90% of the stimulation to your brain comes from the proprioceptors along your spine. All the little joints and all the little muscles along your spine need to be mobile, they need to be moving and stimulating your brain. Proprioception is positive input to your brain, and your brain is sending energy and information out to your body, but it needs to be recharged. So you need to be moving on a regular basis. Think about laying down on a couch watching a couple of football games on a Sunday, and how you just feel brutal when you get up off the couch, right? Does that make, you feel better when you move? That's what's kicking in here, is you're getting those joints going, getting your brain activated again. So anybody who's in to see me and they're having issues with that type of thing, I say you got to get active again, right? Don't go there to search for a drug to try to help you with your Alzheimer's and that. Get going, get moving. Emotional stresses, we already touched on this, the fact that we can't avoid stress. Notice these are all positive things in our life: weddings, promotions, having a new baby. Those are all great things in our lives, but think about the stress. I mean, do you want to be around the bride the day that she's getting married? She's pretty stressed out, isn't she? How about getting a promotion? Now you've got 20 people you're responsible for at night, so you go home, you kind of worry about that. Having a little baby, no stress there, right? Anybody who's having any kids? So these are the positives, and this isn't even talking about all the increased technology we've got, the stresses of trying to set up your computer to get it talking,
Yes.
or the speed that we're expected to do things because of that technology. You know, we've got emails we've got to answer now. We're expected to do way more in a lot less time these days because of that technology. So our stress is just through the roof. So you have to do things positive for your emotional stress on a daily basis. 20 minutes a day at least, or a minimum once a week. In fact, I would say to you, if you're not doing something at least once a week, anything you're doing for your health that's not being done at least once a week, you're probably not getting it done. Solutions, again, we don't need to take time to do this, but one of the things I like to talk about, this is something that's really big, is a stop doing list. We live very, very busy lives, and one of the toughest things to do is say no to somebody. In fact, I was going on a holiday. The day before I went on a holiday, Rick asked me to do this talk, right? And he says, there's no other time. You can't come in May or June, right? So you've got to come. And it's like getting an assignment before March break. You know, didn't you hate it when the teachers did that? So it's supposed to be a break, and they're going to do this break. That's really, so you've got to say no is really, really huge. It's a courageous thing to be able to do, right? We say yes to too much. So at least once a year or once every 6 months, if you've got a busy life, sit down, write down the things you're involved with, and start learning to delegate that. Take some of that stress off you. Nutritional stresses, chemical stresses, you guys seem to be aware of a lot of this just from chatting with some of you before I started here. So it goes without saying that putting any of these things into our bodies is not going to be healthy for us. I like to touch on the caffeine one because we tend to be, Tim's on every quarter, right? Do you notice those lineups at Tim Hortons every day? Right? So what do they call us? They call us the caffeine nation. Well, we're really the fatigue nation, aren't we? When people are really stressed out and they're just fatigued, they need that jolt to get them going. When you look at caffeine and its effect that it has, this is kind of an interesting little study that was done on spiders. What they did was they injected different drugs into the flies that the spiders ate.
Oh, Jesus.
And what they found was that it really messed up their production here. You can see this is hashish, this is LSD, this is mescaline. Look what this one is. That's caffeine. That's probably the most messed up.
I guess a
Most
spider said
messed
to hell
up
with it, I
spider
gave
web,
up.
right? What's that?
I guess the spider said to hell with it, I gave up.
Yeah, I mean, that's, no, they didn't do it all at once, right? But I mean, what I'm saying is that it's a drug. Caffeine is a drug, so be very careful what you're putting into your bodies on a daily basis. Chemical solutions really have to be done sort of on a one-on-one basis, done in gender and age specific. And the key here is that I want you to understand, when I do these talks, I really want to change lives, but I want to give you guys the control back concerning your health. I hope you understand that. It is under your control, isn't it? And I think you really have to start shifting the paradigm. You have to shift to a more vital paradigm. We live in a very mechanistic model with our medical system, right? They're dealing with putting drugs into you to stimulate and suppress things. They're going to take organs out and put them back in. So they look at us as a machine, but there's something a lot more than that to our bodies. There's something that makes us alive one minute and dead the next, right? If I'm standing here right now and you weigh me, and I died and you weighed me 10 seconds later, would I weigh any different?
You would. You would. You lose 1/10 of an ounce when your spirit leaves your body.
Do you?
Yep.
I've never heard that before. This is way too educated a group. Let's say that I know. At least you understand that there's something.
The Russians were trying to prove that there was no spirit inside your body. So they did this test back in the 50s. They tested thousands of people on their deathbeds.
And there was a weight to it?
Yeah, they had them on scales, and they also had these cameras that check your aura and all that.
Yeah, yeah.
And,
I've had my aura
just
done.
when they died, the walls opened, and a blue mist came out, and just after that happened, each one of them lost 1/10 of an ounce. That was a couple of thousand.
I'm still going to use that same. That's the point. You're getting my point. Understand that there's more than just the physical mass here.
That's right,
There's something. There's an intelligence, a life force, a spirit, whatever you want to call it. This makes us alive one minute and dead the next. And when we look at the 10 keys to longevity, understand that the essence of health and life really lies within. It's not an outside-in fix, is it? It's really going to be the decisions you make and how well your body's functioning here. Some of the stats on this is the fastest growing age group out there, which is really interesting. When you think about what's happening in society, they figure there's 100,000 centenarians now, and they figure there's going to be close to 1 million by the year 2050. 1 in 26 of the baby boomers are going to live to 100 years of age. And the life expectancy has grown over the last 160 years. It's grown by about a quarter of a year each year. Now, one of the points I want to make on this slide, though, the scary part is this is the first generation of children that they feel are not going to live to be as old as their parents.
Jesus Christ.
Because we've got so many kids, if you look at the rates of childhood diabetes and obesity, having kids, too many kids sitting around not being active, right, playing on their computers and that, so this should be an alarm going off. Understand that longevity, the best science out there says that most of your health is only 2% genetic. That means that 98% of it is under your control, lifestyle and environment. There's no centenarian that actually has ever had a centenarian patient parent, so it's not simply genetics. Now, I put this wellness definition from Arizona University down because I think it ties in really nicely with the 10 points that we're going to talk about. We're going to go through the 10 characteristics of people that have made it to become centenarians. And when you read this, it says they were active, lifelong process, aware of choices, making decisions. Those are all key thoughts there, right? And at the bottom, when we talk about the fact that the wellness concept is centered on connections and the idea that the mind, body, spirit, and community are all interrelated and interdependent. Why I put this up is that the first characteristic, the most prominent characteristic of people that live to 100 was strong social relationships. It wasn't exercise or diet. This was the key thing, the number one thing that they found was important for them, right? We'll have questions, that's sort of the questions at the end, otherwise we'll never get through this, guys, okay? So understand that this is huge. Having good family, like the time I just spent with my family, is that invaluable to go to Florida and spend time with your grandkids and your kids and your mother? And be able to, and just all interact and relate in that, and to have friends and family, you can do that. So understand this is really, really big. Managing stress, well, we just went through that. I went through that very quickly with you about stress, how it's going to affect things. These people all handled stress and kept things in stride very well. And they were being proactive with it, right? They were doing yoga and breathing exercise, that kind of stuff. Purpose and passion. This is something that, I see people retiring all the time and in a rush to retire. Like, I love what I do. I'm lucky, I guess, if that's the case, but understand that you have to have a reason to get up in the morning. My uncle was a teacher, and he retired, and he was a stats guy. And he actually looked into the number of checks that the average teacher collects after they retire. The average of monthly pension checks that a teacher would collect. So that's 12 per year. So if I asked you, how many checks do you think the average teacher collected? Any ideas?
36.
36?
55.
Okay,
Wow.
5 years, 3 years, right? Right?
18.
How many?
18.
22. Yeah.
Really?
22.
22. You're talking years, or you're
Yeah.
talking? So
Well,
you
actually-
so you understand? You guys are. Most people think it's like 10 years or more, right? But they're talking less than 2 years. Guys on the CN was a dozen. So you have to have that purpose in your life. You have to have that reason to get up and get going. Healthy diet. This group seems to understand that. I think you've heard a lot of speakers come in and talk about diet, antioxidants, all that. But understand that it's very important what you put in your body. You've got to replenish the nutrients that you've lost during the day. Make sure you're taking in the healthy stuff. And understand it's not about the overweight, underweight stuff as much as making sure you're replenishing things properly there. Exercise. Heart and lungs, the aerobic stuff is very important. I just did that chat with the ladies the other night, actually, but it was really important for the ladies to understand as they age, because a lot of ladies go into the pool and they do the aquabics and that, but guess what happens? Because they're not weight-bearing, they become even more osteoporotic. They think they're exercising, but the bones get weaker and weaker. Wolff's Law states that bone builds up due to the stress put on it, so you need to be weight-bearing. You have to be doing light weights or doing stuff where you're in gravity, not just the swimming. Swimming's great for your muscles and that, but make sure you're doing stuff against gravity. And understand that it doesn't have to be intense. Walking 30 minutes a day keeps you in shape as much as, if you do that 4 or 5 times a week, as if you keep you in shape as well as the guy that's running 30 or 40 miles a week. Just get out and do it. Stay active. Lifelong learning, adaptive to change. Understand that what's happening for these people when they live to 100, it's a process. They're engaged in their lives, aren't they? They're not just
learning.
Yeah, it's learning, and it's a whole process of mind, body, and spirit. It's all of those things communicating and involved that really keeps them vital and young. Optimistic goes without saying. You better be optimistic, right? The glass better not be half empty all the time in your life. You better be thinking positive about things. And the spiritual side of stuff, I think we already touched on that there's more than just our physical being here, that there's certainly an internal, that's really who we are, as our spirit, right? And I like this part too, live longer. That's why I asked you that at the beginning, how many people want to live to 100? Because if you don't have that desire, guess what? It's not going to happen. You better have that goal, set that target out there. I missed one here too. There was one we were talking about the lighthearted sense of humor in that too. Understand that goes to your state of mind, right? If you can picture Donovan Bailey running across remember when he was the world's fastest man? And he ran across that 100, can you picture the smile on his face? Everybody in the room as a Canadian can picture that, right? And how, can you feel you get to tingle, right, when you see him run that? Now picture losing a loved one. Can you feel how your body just sinks? There's a whole different set of chemical reactions going on inside your body depending on what your brain is thinking, isn't it?
It all depends sometimes. Sometimes it's a relief if somebody's been suffering for a long time.
Yeah, that's not my point, yeah. You know what I'm saying? I just want you to understand that the brain really controls what's happening inside your body, doesn't it? And it can be totally different depending on your mental attitude there. So you really have to watch that. You broke my train of thought. I was going to bring up one other point there too. Well, we'll move on.
Mine don't matter. You know mine, it don't matter.
Yeah. Chiropractic. So, keys to longevity. We just talked about my mother, 86 years old. She traveled around Florida with us.
Yeah.
Went through Busch Gardens. I said, Mom, do you want me to get you a wheelchair or a scooter? No, she goes to Linda DePere. She does her exercise 3 times a week at volunteer pool. They say that she got checked by the kids at LU actually a year or two ago. They say her ability is like a 66-year-old. When she's 86, like she's fit, she's got the aerobics and that, right? I mean,
just turned 86 last Tuesday.
Good girl, yeah. And you're here listening to this, you're still learning, that's great.
Very much interested in us.
Yeah, she's been getting adjusted her whole life. She's been active, exercising, kept a positive attitude. Elderly people under chiropractic, it's not just my mother, obviously, there's a lot of people in her. But you're gonna have fewer chronic conditions, fewer drugs. They're definitely report regular exercise. Study done published by the British Medical Journal said less hospitalizations, fewer medical visits, less prescriptions, less Medicare use, better quality of health by seniors that run regular chiropractic care. And that's really what I want to get to tonight too. You guys have had chiropractors come and speak to you, and I don't know what they've told you, but I want you to understand that really the goal in my practice as a chiropractor is to get your body, that nervous system as free of interference as possible. And we also want to allow you to not feel better, but I want you to heal better. I'm going to kind of go through, I'm going to go back before you were you. Understand the egg. Do you understand the concept here? Right? Break an egg from the outside, it's death, right? But if the egg breaks from the inside, that's life beginning. And it's not an outside-in fix is the point here, right? Really, your healing is an outside-in thing. Your body has that amazing ability to heal itself. We start off with the miracle of life. We start off with a cell from mom and one from dad and one from mom. Right? Anybody else anywhere different? No test tubes or anything, right? So we all started that way. And within 9 months, we have a beautiful little baby boy or girl.
Hey! Good show.
And we call it the miracle of life. Is it pretty amazing when you hold that little baby and there's 2 eyes and nose and mouth, they look perfect, right? The reason I talk about that is it logical to assume that, was that just a random event that little baby was born that way? Or is it logical to assume that some intelligence working inside the body, or that little body, right? And when you see the moment of conception even, that's another example of this innate intelligence within our bodies. Right, the sperm all swimming in one direction towards the egg. Why does that happen? Is there help from mom or dad, or is that just the body's innate intelligence? And this is not, the intelligence we're talking about is not conscious intelligence. It has nothing to do with us consciously thinking about this stuff. This is just the wisdom that your body has, isn't it? So if you go from 2 cells to 4 cells to 8 to 16 to 32, you have a rapidly dividing mass of cells. By about the 3rd week, you see the development of the first organ system in the body. What is the first organ system that develops in your body?
Brain, isn't it?
Yeah, the brain, and that's what you're looking at here, the brain and the central nervous system. Why is it the first one that develops?
Most important.
because, and as well as, it's gonna be controlling the growth and development of all the other organs, tissues, and systems in the body, right? So by about the 5th, 6th week, you start to develop the heart, the liver, the kidneys, these other organs. This little baby sucking its finger in utero, why is it doing that? What is it preparing to do? The moment it's born, what does it know how to do? It knows how to nurse. Right? Is it- You guys think this, and what is the baby, the moment it's born, it knows how to nurse. It can cry for the first time. If it gets a cut, does that baby have the ability to heal that cut right away? Broken collarbone sometimes happens at birth, does the baby know how to heal that? Do you understand? So this intelligence, does it stop then shortly after birth, or is it working with all of us right now? Is it still there? Yeah, we still know how to heal fractures and cuts, right? So this is really where the paradigm shift has to occur in healthcare, I think, too, then. Ever recognize Einstein up there? Pretty smart guy. He had a really nice analogy. He said, if you have a dark room, and you have a lit hallway, and the door is closed, and you open that door, what happens? Does the darkness rush out, or does the light rush in? Anybody? Yeah. Light's the only real thing, right? Photons and that's the only real thing. He says that really there's no such thing as darkness. It's just the absence of light. And I put to you that there's really no such thing as disease. It's just the absence of health within your body. You have some 70 trillion cells in your body that are all designed, when they're replicating, for health and wellness. It's like putting a seed in the ground. When you put a seed in the ground, that seed is not designed to have a sick plant. It's designed to grow a healthy plant. It's the same thing when the cells replicate in our body. And yet we have a whole system out there studying sick people and what makes them sick, instead of studying healthy people and what's keeping them healthy. Flu season. Flu shots. I bet you guys are really into the flu shots in this group.
No,
Good, good. I just had that feeling. So understand that it is just this. I have traveled all over the world. I have looked at calendars everywhere. I've never seen the flu season on a calendar anywhere. Can anybody tell me when it starts or when it stops?
When they wanted to.
Exactly. Like, when you think about the flu, what happens in the northern hemisphere here? Our days are getting shorter, so we're getting less sunlight. It's getting cold, but we're getting less sunlight, so we're getting less vitamin D, which is crucial for our immune system, right? The days are getting colder, so it starts to stress our body, doesn't it? How about Halloween? We just had the kids go through that mass of sugar into their body, right? And then Christmas is coming shortly. So has that ever been a stress for anybody, Christmas? Like, do you understand what I'm, like, is it more logical that that's why everybody's getting sick? Because their bodies are getting run down and stressed out? And that's why we're getting into that? It's not a little bug that came into town all of a sudden, mister. We breathe in tens of thousands of bacteria every second. Right now, we're all sharing germs, right? It's not the fact that a little bug comes in. It's really the health of the host that determines whether you get sick or not. If your cells are healthy, the bacteria are scavengers. They can't take a foothold, can they? Right? Even the founder of the germ theory agreed. Pasteur said that it's not the seed, but it's the strength of the soil that determines whether you get sick or not. So if you've got that cultured medium in your body where your cells are all run down and those bacteria afflict you, then you may get the cold or the sniffles or the flu.
They give you antibiotics and that makes it even worse.
Just
Your
immune system doesn't get to work?
Shut.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. All right, let's move on to the plant analogy. So where do we go with this then? Understanding, no, if you see a sick plant, what do you guys think about? Right away you default to the fact that, boy, that sick plant, we gotta get an MRI done, we've got to get a blood test done, we've got to get some x-rays, right? What do you think about? Right off the bat, you think what? What is it missing? What is it missing?
Water and
Water,
nutrition.
right?
Water and nutrition.
And what if you get it water? Okay, if you give it water and it doesn't come back, what do you think then? You think maybe it needs what?
Soil.
Or nutrition. Good. Yeah, you mentioned that already, sir. Good. And what if you give it the water and the soil and it still doesn't start to regenerate? What do you think?
Got to put out the sun.
Perfect. Good. You need sun, right? What if he puts it out in the sun and it still doesn't come back? What if it's in the sun already? What's that? What about the toxic dump that's down the street though? And that water is leaching into the soil. So does that make sense? So if you give it those things, if you take it away from the toxic soil and you give it the sunlight, the water, and the nutrients, does that plant have the chance to go back to life?
No, you need fertilizer.
That's the nutrient. That's the nutrient. It's there. But it does, doesn't it? Well, your body has that same ability. If you give your body what it needs, in fact, some of what you were talking about, this group started because a lady decided not to take the chemo for her hair, and she's tried to doing a lot of things to get her body to look back right. And she lasted 16 years.
It must have been. How long do you
That's
talk?
Okay, well, that's exactly what we're talking about right here, right? The plant analogy applies to us as well. So let's look at what a definition of health is then. Health is obviously not just feeling good. We can't use that. It's not accurate, right? Health is a condition of wholeness in which all of the organs are functioning 100% all of the time. I apologize, this looks very, that goal doesn't show up very well here. Are you guys able to read that, or? Yeah. Okay. So what do we do then? What do our, unlike the plant, right, we have some other prerequisites. What are the 5 prerequisites for us to be healthy then as humans? We need exercise, diet, adequate rest, positive mental attitude, and a sound central nervous system.
No words.
All of these 5 things, if you don't look after each one of them, then you can't be optimally healthy. If you're a marathon runner and you're eating at McDonald's, you're going to be healthy? You can't be, okay? So we need all of these to be looked in balance, look after, and I could talk a whole lecture again on all of these, but what we're going to focus on as a chiropractor, what I want to focus on tonight is this, the importance of your central nervous system. Because it's the one that often is probably the most important when it's thought of the least. How long can you live without food? Anybody watch Survivor?
About 40 days.
Yeah. How long can you live without air, or water? A few days, yeah. How long can you live without air?
Not very long.
5 minutes, you're good. Some of the
Well,
magicians,
actually,
you must be a
world
magician,
The
right?
world record is 14 minutes.
Wow. Yeah, so most of it is a minute or 2, right? How long can you live without a nerve impulse?
0.
Yeah, you can. If someone cuts your head off, you are dead, right? If you sever your spinal cord, you're dead. So it's the one that we can live the least time without. It's probably the most important, and yet it's the one we think about the least. And it's because we're really not aware of what's happening with it, are we? Are there millions and millions of signals going up and down your spinal cord right now? Yeah, you're listening to me, you're perceiving what I'm talking about, I'm walking around, my muscles are working, all that stuff's happening right now. Are you aware of that happening? No, but it's happening, isn't it? So how would you be aware if it's interfered with? You wouldn't often until you end up with a symptom. So what we do with adjustments, we're really trying to understand that we're trying to maximize your potential when we're working with you on your nervous system. Because when do they pronounce you dead, by the way? When do they say that you're dead? It's not when your heart stops or your lung stops. It's when there's
When your
no
brain's
brain
dead.
function, right? It's your brain that's really keeping you alive, right? So we're trying to maximize that. Really, your healing in that is occurring through that spinal cord in the brain, right? And if we can keep that expression of health occurring, when there's no interference, that's the expression of health. When there is interference, that's often when you get sick. And the purpose of the nervous system, this is a definition then from Gray's Anatomy, is to control and coordinate the function of all the other organs, tissues, and systems in the body. I alluded to that one earlier when I talked about why it's the first system that develops, right? So this is really its role, is to control and coordinate everything else. Central nervous system involves the brain and its extension, which is the spinal cord, and the extension of the spinal cord, which is all these little nerves branching off the side. Your nervous system is really composed of, it's like your electrical wiring. We were talking about you talked about the, outside your house, what was that?
Smart meters.
Yeah, that's measuring your electrical power coming in, but this is really what we're talking about in your body. In fact, they say that if you took away everything else except the nervous system, you'd really still be able to recognize us for who we are. There's that many nerves around your body. So when we look at this side view of your spine from the side, you can see the skull. And by the way, this is the only system, you mentioned about importance earlier, this is the only system that's totally encapsulated in bone. And why do you think that's so? It's what he said, it's because of its importance. It needs to be protected, doesn't it? You've got the skull and 24 movable segments that protect the spinal cord, and then the nerves exit from these openings between all of here. So when you understand that the healing power of your body is really in your brain, that's where all the healing, and that's where all of the force for that is. And it sends messages down through your spinal cord along these nerves to all these different organs and cells in your body. So if you start to interfere with that in some way, do you understand how, say we just kind of, let's show you on the spine here. So here's your spine. It should have curves forward, back, and forward from the side. From the front, it should be straight up and down. If I bend your spine like this, if your spine walks in like this, what's happening? Is this sick or healthy? what's happening? It's putting crushing pressure on your spinal cord and the nerves as they exit, but this is called a scoliosis. By the way, your doctors know all this stuff. Right? What do the doctors do at this level? When you have a severe scoliosis, they put
Give you
rods in, don't they? No, they put rods in, don't they? Because they know that if it's gonna, this is what's gonna shut you down, right? If you let that curve progress, it's gonna shut down those organs those nerves go to. But what we're dealing with in the office is we're not that extreme, right? We're dealing with misalignments where there are just minor shifts that are putting pressure, pinching those nerves or that spinal cord in that area. So what's gonna happen if that nerve is heading out, say, to your liver or your kidneys? It's gonna be functioning optimally. It's moving into a 6 state. If it's at the top, say it's in your neck where it's causing headaches, or it may be causing that, you talked about the pain that you're having, right? Or it's affecting your arm, the tingling and numbness in your arm. Do you realize that those same nerves also are, it's the cardiopulmonary nerve, it also goes to your heart and lungs. So if this nervous system is really what's causing your body to heal, like health can really be about your body healing at 100% too. If you understand that definition, that's the one I like to use. And the healing is coming through this nervous system. So if we get that interference to it, then the cells in your body turn over on a regular basis. The only part that doesn't turn over is out here. When they talk to us about the fact that your body's gonna turn over every 7 years, it's not true. You live to be 100 years of age, right? Here. These cells don't turn over. Central nervous system cells will not regenerate. But all these other cells out here will. So your body doesn't really live to be 100, but you as a person do, right? That spiritual part of you will. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because, skin cells turn over every 14 days, red blood cells every 180 to 120 days, your heart and lung cells are about every 6 months. They say every 7 years, every cell in your body has regenerated, other than the central nervous system cells. So when you start talking about these nerves affecting your heart, if those cells in your heart are turning over all the time, and the pressure on the nerves not allowing the healing to occur, so what kind of cells are you developing there? Are you developing sick or healthy cells? You're developing sick cells, right? If you leave that pressure on that nerve long enough, and those cells keep regenerating, do you understand how that heart gets sicker and sicker? And that can lead to issues down the road, right? Should you check your neck? You bet you should, right? Not just because you had a symptom, right? That's right. Because you may have a lot of health issues that are happening there than that, okay? All right, so that's sort of the philosophy of chiropractic. You can take it even a step further. If you cut the head off, we talked about how you're going to die, right? What if I cut the nerve root going to the heart? What's going to happen? Is that heart going to die? Yeah. Is that just a theory, or is that a fact?
It's a fact.
That's a fact. That's a law, right? That's a law of life. So what I just talked to you about in this last few minutes, that is a law of life. Whether you're a human or whether you're an animal, if you've got a spinal cord, right, and you get damage to it or a nerve, right, things are going to die. Medicine has a lot of theories, right? We're not talking theories now. This is real. So Christopher Reeve fall off a horse, right? He damaged his brainstem right up in here. If you put your finger right up under your skull, that's your brainstem. That's where the major control centers for all the major organ systems in your body come from. So how well was he able to function? Was he falling off the horse and fractured dislocation of his neck? He was on a respirator, right? He had a pacemaker to make his heart work. They would kind of massage his bowel to get his bowel to work. Does anybody in the room think that he died 9 years later because of old age or genetics? No, he died, because those organs eventually shut down. And we know that he didn't damage those organs in the fall. But no more life force going to those organs, no more function, right? So that's what killed him. And that's the same thing that can happen in our bodies. This is showing you the scoliosis. I talked earlier about how the doctors would put Harrington rods in there, right? Because they know these guys are going to shut down. They're not going to make it to 40. And the other point I'd like to make, so we get a developing curve here. The doctors can't do anything about it until you get to 40 degrees. They don't do anything with the rods until then. Well, what if you're here? What if you're only off by 4 or 5 degrees? Do you think it's wise to wait till you get to 40 so they can put the rods in, or is it maybe smart to start dealing with it at this point? And is there stress? I mean, you've got crushing pressure even at that level. You've still got crushing pressure on your spinal cord and the nerves. It's affecting the function and the health of your cells in your body. So this is the time to start being proactive with it. This is a little guy that had bladder issues. You can see the scoliosis, the curve here, within a year. He had urinary tract infection that wouldn't clear up for the doctors. No control of his bladder. And within a year, all that had cleared up.
How old
Is it-
was that? How old was that person?
7-year-old boy.
7-year-old.
These x-rays here of two 55-year-old gentlemen. One is standing in front of you right now. I took x-rays myself in 2009, and you can see the fairly healthy curve. Discs are healthy. I've been under regular chiropractic care for the last 25, 30 years. This gentleman actually was in my maternity. He came to see me at the same birth date as me. So he was in the general hospital, the same birthing center as I was, right, when I was born. So anyways, we reconnected after all those years. But you can see where his spine is at, the loss of the curve. I mentioned actually to Bill about how the fact that this forward head posture with kids on computers and texting and that is brutal for their spines and their postures now. It's leading to a lot of this stuff. I'm seeing this stuff. We used to see this stuff when people in their late 30s, early 40s. Now we're starting to see it a lot earlier in kids in their late teens and 20s. This guy, when you have this kind of stress on the nerves, it's taken 20 years off his life. We already talked about it's going to be affecting the nerves going to his heart and his lungs and that, right? So really important to be aware of this, to be aware of the posture. And time is a factor, right? The longer you've had something, right, the longer it's going to take to correct it, right? The longer you wait, right, it's going to take more time for sure. And be aware that things can progress in your spine too. The degeneration that occurs, you start off just in phase 1 where you've got the misalignment in your spine. But what happens if you leave it there, it's like walking around on the outside of your shoe. Eventually you're going to see that wear pattern on the outside of your shoe. Right? So this degeneration, the narrowing of the disc and the spurring that occurs is really because the altered function and the altered alignment in the spine. So the quicker you can get that corrected, and this occurs after car accidents. They've done studies where after car accidents they figure the degeneration starts to occur within the first 10 days or so. So you should always be getting checked after traumas well within the first few weeks to make sure that you don't allow this to start to develop in your body.
Well, it happened, I know a lady, 5-6 years ago, she had a car accident. She cannot straighten out, she's like this. And I wonder what can be done about that.
Well, I mean, you can bring it back. I mean, it's not something you may never be able to get it back to 100%.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you can even improve her back 50%, is that going to help her to live a longer life, help her function better, right? Yeah.
Also Addison's disease.
She has? Yeah. Okay. Why I showed you that degeneration stuff too is that I want you to understand that the spurring and the degeneration you saw in the x-rays extends back into the spinal canal. This is showing you phase 1 where the misalignment has just occurred in the spine. You've lost that nice curve forward in the neck. Here's where you're getting into phase 2 and 3 where you're starting to get the spurs developing back into the spinal canal. This white here is your spinal cord. Okay, so here's the spinal cord. In the first one where there's no degeneration, can you see how it's starting to scallop into there, right? And as you get into phase 4, you can almost get fusion here of the discs in that, and you can see how narrow that spinal cord is. Right? Do you think this guy's functioning well? This is probably what's going to kill you, right? This shutdown here. No more life force, no more energy coming from the brain, you're going to have trouble functioning, are you? So what we do different in our office then, we take no role, we play no role in treating your symptoms, or treating your conditions. What we do is work at trying to correct your spine, just like putting braces on your teeth. We try to work with correcting your spine to get the stress off your nervous system and then allow your body to come back to health. Because you just asked this question, right? If I can correct a spine even 50%, is that patient getting healthier or sicker?
Must be healthier if
They're
you
moving
didn't
in the
have
right direction.
Addison's.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying this with Addison's. I'm saying with a person in general, right? As I say, I don't treat specific diseases like that. My job is to allow your body to improve its health as best it can, right? So understand, and it's not going to happen, that getting healthier or sicker, is that going to happen just 70% of the time?
No.
That's going to happen 100% of the time, right? Does that make sense? This is a law we talked about earlier. If you can get your brain communicating better with your body, it's going to start to function better. It's going to work better. So every time I put my hands on someone I'm adjusting them, I know that I'm improving their level of health. 25-year-old athlete, you can see a loss of the curve. a nice response within a year. Now, these things that I'm talking about, these minor misalignments in your spine that I'm talking about are called vertebral subluxations. Have you heard that term before? Okay, that's, you've had chiropractors come and speak with this? Okay, so understand sub means what? Subtract, submarine means under or less than, right? Ation is a state of, and lux means light, or choose as a measurement of light, so a less than, a state of less light or a state of less life is when you're subluxated. What this is showing you is a dried specimen where the nerve roots are exiting. You can see where the subluxations occurred down here, how much narrower the openings are. I think there's a chance this guy might have some symptoms down his leg, might have some tingling, numbness, loss of strength, sciatic type stuff, yeah. Maybe some bladder frequency, bowel issues. So spinal misalignments, right, impinge the nerves or pinch the nerves, causing interference with the communication between your brain, and it can result in pain, discomfort, and disease. How much pressure does it take? 45 millimeters of pressure on the nerve can cause a 60% decrease in the action potential within 3 minutes. How much is 45 millimeters of pressure? We got any meteorologists here? It's a weight of a quarter on your finger. That little pressure can have that significant impact on the nerve that quickly. All right, how do these subluxations occur? When do you think you can get subluxations? Car accidents, we talked about, right? Athletic injuries, bad falls, postural stuff I mentioned to you about, right? When do you think the first subluxation occurs? I kind of flipped ahead here. So when is the first subluxation going to occur in your life? Or possibly? Yeah, birth is very traumatic for little babies. They feel that 95% of babies probably have misalignments at birth.
Okay.
When you think about it, the baby's mom is trying to deliver that baby down through a very narrow birth canal. The mother's womb is contracting at 120 pounds of pressure. It's a muscle, right? What's the first thing you have to support when the baby's born? Is its head, because the neck is so strong, right? Oh, the neck's like a noodle, isn't it? It's just, there's nothing, right? So you got this baby getting forced down through the birth canal, right? Is there just a chance that little baby's neck could get subluxated a bit there? Does that make sense? And then as the baby comes through, the doctor actually tractions and twists to release the shoulder, and tractions and twists to release the other shoulder. Now, Dr. Tobin is a neuropathologist down at Harvard Medical School. And he studied SIDS babies. These are sudden infant death syndrome babies. Everybody heard about that over the years, right? These babies that stop breathing shortly after birth or in the next few days, right? Well, what he found was there's evidence of upper cervical dislocation, fracture, or brainstem hemorrhage with these babies. And the brainstem, I mentioned with Chris Reed, right? The brainstem is where the respiratory center, control center for your body is. Does that make sense that that could be affecting how those babies, right? He feels of the 2% of the kids that die before they leave the hospital, 30% of them are due to this type of trauma. Now say the baby doesn't have a fracture dislocation. Say the baby just has a subluxation of that upper cervical part of their spine. Anybody in the room ever been to a chiropractor about headaches? Ever seen a chiropractor, period? You guys have all seen chiros? Have you ever had headaches? Is ever adjusted for a headache? Or do you know? So logically, headaches, he's adjusting upper cervical for that. All right? So what can a baby do to tell its mom that it's got a headache? All it can do is cry through the neck, right? We've had little babies who've been crying for the first 3 or 4 months of their life. 2 or 3 little adjustments, they settle right down. Have you ever known anybody with a real bad headache who gets headaches and they actually get nauseous, they want to throw up with the headaches? Have you heard about that, right? Okay, there's a nerve called the vagus nerve that goes from the base of your skull down to your stomach, and it gets the juices going for digestion. When you put food in your mouth, before the food actually gets to your stomach, it starts to get things going so it's ready to digest. So if you've got overstimulation of the vagus nerve, the stomach can get kind of nauseous. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You have a real bad headache? And the opposite way, if you drink too much, if you ever felt that, that's the vagus nerve getting overstimulated from the drinking. But so a little baby then who's got pressure on the vagus nerve getting a headache, or pressure on the vagus nerve at the base of the neck, causing that stomach to get really active. Does that not sound like a colicky baby? And yet you have mothers out there that are, right, thinking they're allergic to things, they're changing form, they're doing all these wild and wonderful things, and all it is a misalignment at the base of their skull. And you think a lot of moms are considering that? A lot of moms are aware of that? That's why I come out to talk, is this kind of stuff. This stuff needs to go to your children, your grandkids, and that. Let them know that these are options for them, right? There's a study, it's not just in my office, there's a study done in Denmark, 316 cases of colic. Within 2 weeks, 94% of them are back to normal. And the million-dollar question is then too, is there, if that is the problem for that child, is there any drug out there that can move that bone?
No.
So do you understand how it's a double whammy? The child's got subluxation putting pressure on their spinal nervous system, interfering with the function of the body, the life force and that. So you take a drug, right, that's not going to have the effect to correct anything, plus you got the double effect of the side effects of the drug. Does that make sense? So the child often spirals down with their health because they're following that formula. By the way, does anybody in this room want to take more prescription drugs and more surgeries? Raise your hand if you want to do that. I'm talking to the right group. I hope that's the case. We do neurological scans in the office. We're really concerned about the state of your nervous system, so we can actually do, just like you can take a blood pressure when you go to see your doctor, you can have scans done to kind of assess the state of your nervous system. When you see the scans, you want to see that they're balanced and there's not a lot of color. There's a healthy scan there. This little girl came to see us, she was asthmatic. You can see how she's unbalanced, there's a lot of red going on. Red is worse than blue, is worse than green on these scans. As she started getting her adjustment, she was getting balanced out more to the point where here, she was getting pretty settled down. At this point, she's doing 2 puffers a day. And at this point, she's back doing jump rope for Harp with her friends and off all her puffers. So, everybody knows chiropractic is really effective for back pain and neck pain. Most people, most audience, you guys are a very knowledgeable audience, right? But most audiences that I speak with are very aware of that ability for chiropractic. What I want people to understand, though, is that we can be very helpful for a lot of these other things. And what I really wish that people knew is that we really can help you get to that 100 years. We can improve your immune system and help you with other metabolism issues and that kind of thing. Why is that important to you? Why is that having a healthy immune system important to you? We talked about cancer earlier, sir. The theory is that there's probably 110,000 cancer cells floating around in our body every day. Why don't we all end up with cancer? They say, well, if we have a healthy immune system, our immune system recognizes those abnormal cells, attacks them, and it never lets the cancer develop in your body. So pretty important to have a healthy immune system. Now, Dr. Ron Perot was chief of Preventive Medicine Institute in New York, and he actually studied, understanding what we just talked about was chiropractic. He studied people that were in the general population, people that had been under long-term chiropractic care, as well as people that had the cancer in that. And he found that the immunocompetence for people in the general population, chiropractic was 200% greater than that, and it was actually 400% greater if you're under long-term chiropractic care than people that actually had cancer and these other issues. This one is some real cool research that came out here over the last few years. Serum thiol. Anybody ever heard of serum thiol? For years, I've sort of talked candidly about chiropractic adds years to life and life to years, but they're actually proving it scientifically for us now. Serum thiol is a measure of how well your DNA are actually able to repair themselves. So what happens in our body as we age is our cells turn over, we talked about that, and we replicate ourselves. Now, if you don't have your DNA repairing, it's like taking a photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy. It's getting weaker each time. Make sense? So the better that your DNA can repair, the better the healthier you're going to look, right, as you age, and the better your body's going to function. Whoops. Going too far here? Did it jump ahead? Oh, sorry guys. All right, so understand with this, the serum thiol levels, low levels are bad, high levels are good, is the key. If your level is less than 90, your score is less than 90, you have a 95% chance of developing serious chronic illness. If your level is above 120, that percentage doesn't go down to 80 or 70%, it goes down to 5%. And they found in the study, they looked at people that have been under chiropractic care for a minimum of 2 years, and they found that everybody was over the 120, almost up to the 140 level.
Is it only chiropractic care what bring it up?
That's what they studied in this. But no, I mean, it's lifestyle choices. It's not just chiropractic, but this study was just done on, that was to determine the effect that we're talking about for the chiropractic care.
Can you go to your doctor and ask for that?
I doubt it. Yeah, they were doing it in this study was done in Lund, Sweden, and I think they were doing it down in Phoenix. When I actually learned about this, I tried to inquire about it, so it's not available locally as far as I'm aware. Okay.
Serum thiol is made by what in your body?
Or you're getting too scientific for me now?
Pardon?
You're getting too scientific for me. All I know is that it's an indicator of the repair of your DNA. So there's something, when your DNA is repairing, this is something that's an indicator to the scientist that the DNA are
So
repairing
this would
better.
probably be done at the cellular level then. See.
It's chemicals, yeah, I'm neurological, yeah, I'm not chemical as much as, yeah. I did that a lot of years ago, that's a lot of years ago on my chemistry there, so,
You'd be both.
yeah. All right, so anyways, that was kind of why I thought that study fit in well is we're talking about living to 100. So that's kind of an indicator that certainly getting your adjustments right there is gonna help with that. Where are we going here? I think the most significant benefits with chiropractic, I agree with what it says here, is when it's received consistently over time. It's like exercise and eating well. Right? You don't eat well until you lose all the weight, right? And then you go back and just start eating all the bad food again, right? You do it consistently. The more consistent you are with a healthy diet, the longer you do it, the better you're gonna be. You go to your dentist, right? If you neglect your teeth for years and you go to your dentist with a cavity and he fixes the cavity, you go home and never brush again. You brush, don't you? And you must brush because your teeth are really sore, right? No, you brush because you want to maintain that. To me, that's the best use of chiropractic care, is keeping the spine from getting degenerative, getting to the symptoms. Right? Much like going to the dentist or going to the gym. Again, you don't go to the gym and exercise, right? And once you get into shape, stop exercising. You do it on a regular basis. The more consistent, the longer you do it, the better you are. So, understand chiropractors, we're really trying to maximize your body's ability to heal itself by affecting the nervous system. So what's possible? There's lots of research. I don't want to spend a lot of time on these studies, but headaches, 70% of chronic migraine sufferers, and they've had the migraines for 18 years, receive significant relief. Quicker recover from injury. These are from the Journal of Orthopedic Medicine, British Medical Journal, talking about the effectiveness of manipulative care. Ulcers, we talk about how these organs these nerves are affecting the tissues and the organs inside you. They actually used an endoscope and they found that 10 days earlier than people going through the medical treatment, the ulcers were healing. People just getting their adjustments, getting those organs functioning better again. Ladies, for the periods, right? Lots of relief, more regularity. AIDS, the control group actually decreased almost 8% in their CD4 counts, and the chiropractic adjusted group actually increased by 48%. It was dramatic when they did this. Digestive health, allergies, Crohn's disease, all sorts of different research here. Dr. Windsor did research on, well, he was kind of a skeptic. He said, this is too good to be true. What you're telling me is too good to be true. So what he did was he autopsied 120 bodies, and he found 220 diseased organs. And he traced the nerve supply back from the diseased organs to the spine. And in every case, he found evidence of degeneration or decay or subluxation at that level. And the more severe the degeneration in the spine, the more severe the decay or degeneration in the organs as well. And he was an MD pathologist. That's possible for kids. We don't have a lot of young parents here tonight, but I think they need to hear this as well, or your grandkids need to be aware of this. But certainly all sorts of research, ear infections, asthma, colic, bedwetting, great results with all of these things under chiropractic care. When people come in to see me and they talk about, like you mentioned, about your neck being sore and getting pain up in your head, certainly that's a red flag, right? Something's going on there, right? And it's not a matter of just leaving. It's been there for a month or something going on. But I don't just deal with that. I look at you very holistically when you come in. I'm thinking now, okay, these nerves are going to his head. Are they affecting his sinuses? Is he having dizziness issues, or is he having sinus issues? That kind of thing. If it's a little lower in the spine, it could be affecting the nerves that go to your thyroid. Right? People that are actually having trouble losing weight often have no clue that it could be a problem in their neck, because the thyroid function is a key metabolism controller in your body, right? So they're out there and they're frustrated because they're doing all these diets and that, and yet there are issues with their thyroid not functioning properly.
Can that be corrected?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
If we can improve the nerve supply, allow your brain to communicate better with those organs, they can start to function better. And if we can do it 5%, 10%, 50%, it depends on how early you can catch it, right? Depending on your need.
Fukushima, right?
We've got mid-back, these are the organs of detox. This is your stomach, your liver, your kidneys, that kind of stuff, right? Those can all improve. Low back, this is where we're getting into the organs for the bowel, the bladder, reproductive organs, infertility. Even we've had young girls come in who've been trying for 3 years to get pregnant. and adjusted within the first month. She came in and says, you know what, I'm expecting now. It's cool stuff, and it wasn't me that got her pregnant, it was
Is there any part of your spine that could be manipulated for schizophrenia or something like that? Or is that then a different level or other space or,
Well, you know what,
you don't know, eh?
they asked you, you're getting into a whole different
That's what I
topic
figured,
for
yeah.
tonight, but yeah, Palmer, the founder of chiropractic, and his son BJ, did a lot of research in that, they did a lot of mental health stuff.
Might be some,
They would go right into the
some part of the
sanitariums
spine
and
or
adjust, and it was amazing what they were getting a lot of good results for people, yeah.
okay.
That's not tonight's topic, but yeah, certainly, there's books, you could read books on that, research on that.
You wouldn't know what part of the spine that would be connected to it.
Well, usually the upper cervical, right, I would think, that close to
around
there.
there, eh? Around
Yeah,
under the
that
neck.
close to the brain, right, that's brain stuff, I don't know exactly, but yeah, it's just,
Just curious about that.
yeah. The low back, also, these are the nerves that go to your legs, right? You've heard about sciatica, a lot of people may have experienced that. That sciatic nerve travels down your leg, if there's pressure on it, it can be issues, right? Also, the femoral artery travels down along with your sciatic nerve. So, when you get the femoral artery and it gets compressed, it's the largest artery in the body, by the way. What's going to happen is you compress it, it decreases the volume. What's going to happen to the pressure? It's going to go up. What kind of pressure goes up? Your
Blood pressure.
blood pressure. There's a study done at Chicago, the University of Chicago, and they found that chiropractic, specific upper cervical adjusting in chiropractic, diminished the blood pressure by at least 17 millimeters of mercury in all the test subjects. It's the equivalent of 2 antihypertensive medications. And this is the kind of stuff we do in the office. Right? I don't look at you just because of a pain and that. I look at you very holistically when you come in. Does it not make more sense to try to get you off of some of those drugs you may needlessly be taking, right? Just because, again, there's the double whammy. The side effect of the drug is often going to lead you to another drug. So if we can get you off that, getting your body functioning better, you're going to be a lot better off. So we've talked about your innate life potential here tonight, as the 100-year, as we talk about 100 years, and that is something I think that you need to be respecting, right? You understand, you've seen your grandparents in that age, and you've seen how they've ended up their last decades of their life, right? So you have the same genes as they do, right? So the logic is that you're going to live at least as long, if not longer, than they would. So it's important that you make the right decisions, right, concerning your health. And that's not just for you, that's for the people in your life that you love. Or if you start making the right decisions, healthcare choices, start looking after your structure, looking after your spine and your nervous system, and making those other lifestyle choices, you understand how that's going to lead to a lot. Chances of you living to that 100 are going to be a lot better, and with quality years. Right? Does that make sense? And you guys deserve this. People deserve to live that quality of life. You do, and your kids deserve to see you do that. And the importance of you doing it is for them as well, because if they see you living that kind of a life, guess what's going to happen? They're going to want that for themselves. They're going to try to live that lifestyle as well. I know my kids are growing up with that, and that's possible for a lot of people. So respect that, honor that inherent life potential that you have, that innate life potential, and make the right choices for your life. And we'll see you all at 120 or so.
Only one thing what bothers me is you could try, like my mother was 86, but they could eat natural food. Now, where is the natural, unless you go to the
It's hard.
marketplace, all the stuff what's on it and in it.
Yeah, it's scary. That's a whole lecture. I do a whole lecture on nutrition
I
too,
know.
but yeah, that's another whole topic.
This is what I go for, you know,
Yeah. Now,
it's a combination.
if you're motivated and this is something that you're concerned about, for a $20 donation to the United Way, you can come in and go through, the opportunity to come in and go through a full evaluation in our office. When you want to get evaluated, you really need to go through a thorough history. You have to do the postural analysis, you have to do the motion palpation to see if there are problems in the spine, the computerized neurological scans, and certainly x-rays. I want to see just what state people are at when we do that. So that's the opportunity you have. As part of the Doctor Speakers Bureau, we give you that. It's normally $127 value to come into our practice and get checked out. Rick, we talked about coming here tonight, right? And that's certainly the offer that we give. It's not a company. It goes to the United Way when we do these talks. So you're welcome to come in. Just talk to Kathy. She'll give you a certificate. And you can change it, you can make it for any family or friends that you've thought of too. You can also change it around, there's no obligations that way, right? And we have a pretty good reputation around town. That's why we've been asked to go out to speak to a lot of different organizations, and we really honor that. What I would ask you is that if you have any other groups or organizations that you're aware of that need speakers to come out, that could use what you've heard about tonight, certainly let Kathleen, I'll give her a name and a contact number so that we can get out and continue to spread this message to people. Okay?
It's too bad the weather is so bad, otherwise it would have been a lot more people.
That's too bad,
They
yeah.
phoned me and emailed me, and if the weather was better, because some of them live in the country, and those roads are bad.
Yeah, they closed the schools today.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay. You know, the people that needed to be here were here,
Yeah.
and you can hopefully help us to spread the word. Someone told me this is my last slide, actually. That's a good lead-in to what I was going to talk at the finish here, but someone told me what you've heard tonight about the importance of a healthy nervous system and how that can really help your health, probably 25, 30 years ago. And since then, thousands of lives have been saved because of that, myself as a chiropractor. But what happened was the mom came in, and she's a local police officer, and she was in tears in the back. She'd been to one of my early lectures, and she said, I said, what's going on? And she says, well, I'm bathing my son and he's losing his hair. And I says, well, what do you mean? She says, well, he doesn't want to eat anymore. I said, well, why not? She says, well, he can't have a normal bowel movement. He's been constipated. He's 4 years old. He's been constipated his whole life. And we have to give him an animal once every couple of weeks to try to get his bowel movement. So I said, obviously he's starving himself. That's why he's losing his hair. So, you know, you understand the connection issues he has. So we scanned him. He was all lit up over the area that innervates his bowel. So he came in and we gave him his first adjustment. He went home that night and he had a massive bowel movement on his own for the first time in his life. 3 days later, he's eating like a pig again. So you'll see him here in the next slide. You can see how emaciated he is. A few months later, he's just a normal, healthy little guy. Now, I don't tell you that to impress you. I tell you that to impress upon you the fact that who did the healing here? Did I do the healing as a chiropractor?
You helped.
No. I just removed the interference from his body's ability to heal. And the power that's in that little guy's body is the same power that's in each one of your bodies as well.
Also possible, I know a family that gets milk, drink milk, it's good for you, they're all constipated, but they did not give them anything with magnesium in it. As soon as they started doing that, they had not that bad a problem.
Sure. Yeah. Cow's milk's not the best for us, for sure. All right, that's it. That's what I have for you tonight. Do we have any questions? I'm just kind of going through it, so how do we do for time? Is it 9? Is it 8 o'clock? 9 o'clock? 20 after 8? I got a couple. I got to be curling at 9. So any questions?
There's your exercise.
I didn't tell
for you.
Kathy I had to curl today, by the way, either. I told her on the morning. Out of debt and survive while helping others. Okay. All right.
Read that other one, electromagnetic radiation is very important.
Yeah, I'll
Some
look
stuff
at that
like
one too.
I've got that out of a book, I haven't got it with me, but I have
So what's your opinion of all the x-rays? Like every time you go, they're shooting you through x-rays, and every doctor wants more x-rays, and dentist wants x-rays and x-rays. Do you do anything about removing the radiation from the?
All I know is, I know that the value of me taking an x-ray for you, if you can, I x-ray 99% of the people come to see me, unless they're too little to stand still, right? I want to know everything about your spine that I can, because you're going to have anomalies. My mom, we talked about her, when I first was in practice, right? Before I was aware of this, I was adjusting, I couldn't understand why I couldn't get her neck to move. When I finally took an x-ray on her, she had a fused vertebra, a blocked vertebra she was born with. So in 5% of the population, you can't tell this stuff just by palpating someone either. So you can have spondylolisthesis, there's all sorts of things that can happen. Plus, I want to know how degenerated your spine is. I can give you a much better prognosis if I can see where your spine's at. So, yeah, I don't take chances. I think the risk, because the speeds, the films are very high-speed films these days, way better than when I started 30, 40 years ago, right, 35 years ago. And they come back digitally now. So they're right in our office immediately. I don't take them myself. They take them down to Thunder Bay Medical Center or Port Arthur Clinic. And then they're there for your doctor, for me, anybody who wants to see them can have a look. It's great. The only thing that's not great about them is that we used to take films, and so I could do my analysis. I could draw lines and everything on them. I can't do that now. I just look at them on a TV screen now. But yeah, the value of X-ray for me as a chiropractor it's my major tool to really determine and how I'm going to adjust. I want to see how things are twisted so that I can be doing a very specific adjustment. It's not just about hearing a noise, right? You understand an adjustment's not just about hearing a noise, it's a very, you can grab your buddy and, you know, you can do that. That's not an adjustment, please, that's not an adjustment. Or people say, yeah, I just rolled over in bed and I did the same. No, you didn't. You probably moved the hypermobile segment. There's probably an area that's locked up. And because of that, joints above or below start to get what are called hypermobile. They get too loose, so you start moving them. Well, guess which segments are going to start to wear out faster? Those hypermobile segments, if you don't get the other ones corrected, right? Yes, sir.
You know, you gave a very, basic, traditional, typical kind of, presentation about, and of course I respect what you said, and I agree with, what you said. However, you talk about removing interferences from the body and so on. When we're dealing in a world where there's so many new things that are interfering with our health, with our bodies, how do you, you're practicing very traditional form
Chiropractic,
of,
yes.
which I respect.
Yeah.
But in a world where there's so many new and unspoken and unpublicized interferences, some of them are politically motivated, some of them are motivated just by the profit motive.
What kind of, are you talking about here now? Are you, interferences, what do you mean?
Well, okay, let's talk about diabetes, okay? You see, a very large number of cases of diabetes revolve around a viral infection of the pancreas, okay? Of course, once the drugs start getting administered, then, you can be dealing with a permanent situation with diabetes. And, of course, there's a profit motive, okay, by medicine. There are a lot of doctors, a lot of the, senior doctors know that this is going on, but it's going unreported because of profit motive, okay? And you spoke about dementia and things, very typical, very common these days. Now, you see, it's about the brain, about being able, to utilize glucose, which is, the brain's major fuel. Now what's causing that interference? They're not looking at that. They're not really looking at that because of the profit motive.
Well,
Okay.
faster they can get you through,
So
One
for
doctor says-
traditional-
I don't blame the doctor. I'm not quite sure where you want me to go with
Well,
that.
what
but
I'm
I
saying
mean,
is-
I understand that big pharma is out there, right?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Big
I'm saying-
pharma's out there, and they can't even ask the question in their boardrooms. Like, we're talking about getting people healthier tonight. Do you realize they can't even ask that question legally in their boardrooms? How can we make people healthier?
Yes.
Because they've got people that own their stocks, and if they get people taking less drugs because they're getting healthier, guess what? Their stocks go down. So they don't even ask that question. Their whole motive is to get more drugs into the population. So you can't
That's
trust
what I'm
that
asking.
system, for sure.
That's what my question was about.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't do drugs, right?
Never have and never plan on doing.
Good for you.
I was lucky enough to get through even my